Hello everyone, you are on the channel, Who Created It and How? Today we're diving into one of the biggest questions in human history. Who created the first religion? This isn't just about names and dates, it's about a journey deep into the minds of our earliest ancestors. So grab your metaphorical torches and let's explore the dawn of belief. To find the first religion we need to travel way, way back. Not just a few thousand years, but tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of years into the past, into a time before written history, before cities, before agriculture. We're heading into the Stone Age, the world of our Paleolithic ancestors. So how do we know what these early humans believed? They didn't leave us any holy books or scriptures. Instead, they left clues, scattered like breadcrumbs through time. These clues are found in their art, their tools, and most profoundly, in how they treated their dead. Let's start with the Neanderthals, our close evolutionary cousins who lived from about 400,000 to 40,000 years ago. For a long time, they were seen as simple, brutish creatures, but archaeological discoveries have painted a much more complex picture. At sites like Shanidar Cave in modern-day Iraq, archaeologists found Neanderthal skeletons that were intentionally buried. One individual, known as Shanidar 4, was found with clumps of pollen from various flowers. This led to the flower burial theory, the idea that these Neanderthals weren't just disposing of a body, but were performing a ritual, perhaps laying their loved one to rest with offerings for an afterlife. While some scientists now debate whether the pollen was brought in by burrowing rodents, the fact remains, these burials were deliberate. The bodies were often placed in a specific, flexed position, like a sleeping baby. This careful treatment of the dead is a powerful indicator of abstract thought. It suggests they understood that life had a definitive end, and it raises the possibility that they believed something continued after that end. This right here is one of the earliest sparks of what we might call religious behavior. Now let's fast forward to our own species, Homo sapiens. Around 100,000 years ago, at sites like Kafse and Skul in Israel, we find some of the earliest intentional burials of modern humans. Not only were they buried, but they were often buried with grave goods, things like pierced seashells and deer antlers. These weren't random objects. The shells had been collected, perforated, and likely worn as jewelry. Placing these personal, valuable items in a grave strongly implies a belief that the deceased would need them in another life or another world. This isn't just about mourning, it's about provision for a journey beyond death. This concept, the afterlife, is a cornerstone of so many religions we know today. But belief wasn't just about death. It was also about life and the forces that governed it. This brings us to another fascinating theory: animism. Animism is the belief that everything in the natural world, animals, plants, rocks, rivers, the weather, has a spirit or a consciousness. For our ancestors, the world was alive. A thunderstorm wasn't just a meteorological event, it could be the anger of a sky spirit. A successful hunt wasn't just luck or skill, it was a gift from the spirit of the animal. Think about their daily lives. They were completely dependent on the natural world. Their survival hinged on the movement of herds, the changing of seasons, and the availability of plants. It makes perfect sense that they would develop a deep, spiritual connection to their environment. By personifying these powerful, unpredictable forces, they could try to understand them, communicate with them, and maybe even influence them through rituals, offerings, or prayers. Animism likely wasn't a formal, organized religion with a name, but a worldview, a way of seeing and relating to a world filled with other than human beings. It was the original spiritual ecology. This brings us to one of the most breathtaking expressions of the prehistoric mind: cave art. In places like Lascaux in France and Altamira in Spain, our ancestors descended deep into the earth, into dark, inaccessible chambers, and covered the walls with stunning paintings of animals: bison, horses, mammoths, and lions. These aren't just doodles. They are masterpieces of their time, created by torchlight in what must have felt like the womb of the earth. Why did they do it? The popular theory for a long time was hunting magic. The idea was that by painting an animal, the artist gained some kind of power over it, ensuring a successful hunt. a sort of prehistoric visualization board. And that makes some sense. But it doesn't explain everything. Why were some animals, which they rarely hunted, painted so often? Why were the paintings located in such difficult-to-reach places, not out in the open? This has led researchers to believe these caves were sacred spaces, prehistoric cathedrals. The act of journeying into the darkness, into a different realm, was part of a ritual. The paintings might have been part of shamanistic ceremonies. A shaman is a spiritual figure who is believed to be able to communicate with the spirit world, often by entering a trance-like state. Perhaps these caves were gateways to that spirit world. The flickering torchlight would make the painted animals seem to move and breathe on the uneven cave walls. The strange acoustics and sensory deprivation deep underground could help induce altered states of consciousness. These weren't just art galleries. They were portals. The art was the interface between the human world and the spirit world. So we have burial rituals suggesting a belief in an afterlife, animism suggesting a world full of spirits, and shamanistic cave art suggesting a way to communicate with those spirits. These are the foundational elements of religion. But there's one more piece to the puzzle, and it's inside our own heads. It's about cognitive evolution. For our ancestors to develop these complex beliefs, their brains had to be wired for it. They needed a theory of mind, the ability to understand that other beings have their own intentions, desires, and beliefs. First, they applied this to other humans, which is crucial for social cooperation. Then, they extended it to the world around them. That lion looks hungry, and it's looking at me. It wants to eat me. From there, it's a short cognitive leap to attribute intention to non-living things. The sky is dark and rumbling. The sky spirit is angry. This ability to see agency and intention everywhere, what some scientists call the hyperactive agency detection device, may have been an evolutionary advantage. It's better to mistakenly think a rustling bush is a predator than to assume it's just the wind and be wrong. This tendency to see minds and intentions behind events could be the very psychological root of belief in gods and spirits. So, who created the first religion? The answer is, there wasn't one single person or one single moment. It wasn't created in the way someone invents a tool. Instead, religion emerged. It grew organically out of the very fabric of human evolution and experience. It grew from our expanding brains, from our capacity for abstract thought, from our need to make sense of a world that was both beautiful and terrifying. It grew from our awe of nature, our fear of death, and our deep social bonds. The first religious thinkers were our ancient ancestors. The Neanderthal who placed flowers on a grave, the Homo sapiens who buried their dead with seashells for a journey, the artist who painted a bison in the deep darkness of a cave, and the shaman who listened to the voices of the spirits in the wind. Religion is not an invention, but an emergent property of being a self-aware, social, and imaginative human being, trying to navigate the mysteries of life and death. It's a story that connects every one of us, regardless of what we believe today, back to those first humans who looked up at the stars and wondered, why? Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey into the past. I hope it gave you something to think about. If you enjoyed this exploration, please give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to Who Created It and How for more deep dives into the origins of our world. Hit that notification bell so you won't miss our next video. See you next time.